Well, it's that time of year again, and on Saturday night before you get up Sunday morning, you should be rolling back your clocks because daylight savings time is about to end. And it does create a time warp for a lot of people. It's hard for people to take that time gap difference. It's only an hour, and it takes me about a week to get up to speed. I mean, when I go visit family that
Right.
are more than one or two time zones away, it's the same thing.
Right.
But it is something that you just have to get used to twice a year.
So there are 48 states that go to daylight saving, and it's saving with no S. Isn't that interesting? We go to daylight saving time, and the two states that don't shift, do you know what they are?
I know Arizona's one.
Arizona's one.
I thought Nevada?
Nope. It's
What?
Hawaii.
Oh.
They're just out there in the
They're
middle
out
of the
there.
ocean,
They're on
and
their
they
own time zone
they never
anyway.
change.
Yeah, I know Arizona
never
is
change.
because when you drive through
Yeah.
there, when you go to
It tells you.
southern Utah, you go to
Yeah.
Arizona for a few minutes, and
Yeah.
it tells you that. I thought
That's
Nevada
right.
was too. I
Yeah.
don't know why I thought that.
So text us at 57500. Should we stay on daylight saving time? Or do you prefer to stay on standard time, or do you like the switch? Anyway, it's political. It's a political question, and it's one of the things that's so interesting to me is people get really fired up about this issue.
Yeah, here's KSL NewsRadio's Adam Small explaining the politics around the time shift.
There are currently 19 states, Utah being one of them, that have passed legislation to stay on daylight time year-round if Congress changed the law allowing states to do so. And according to the National Conference of State Legislatures, Arizona and Hawaii have already moved to standard time year-round just so they don't have to change their clocks anymore. Utah lawmakers considered doing the same thing here in the last legislative session, but the bill failed in committee after several groups voiced concern with it always getting darker earlier. Utah Congresswoman Celeste Malloy has proposed legislation in D.C. to allow states to observe daylight time year-round, but it and other bills like it have failed to get off the ground. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
So apparently if states want to stay on standard time year-round, they can opt out. But if they want to go to daylight savings time year-round, as I'm reading this,
It literally takes an act of Congress.
it takes an act of Congress.
So it's interesting because President Trump actually weighed in and said, hey, I want to make daylight saving time permanent. And we've talked a lot about the government shutdown, but the Senate is doing some things.
Right.
And earlier this week, just 2 days ago, there was a bipartisan group, meaning both Republicans and Democrats, who were trying to get a bill passed that would say they wanted to do it by unanimous consent, which just says everybody agrees, right? And to say that daylight saving time would become the law of the land. Well, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas is like, absolutely not. He says he stood on the Senate floor and said, if permanent daylight saving time becomes the law of the land, it will make winter a dark and dismal time again for millions of Americans.
Yeah, well, it does change I don't know which I prefer. I actually like daylight savings time. To me, and nobody's asked my opinion, but I'm going to give it anyway. I like what we do. I like the shift.
Do you?
I could deal with the hour.
Why?
It drives my wife crazy, but because I think it makes more sense, and because it'll actually help you and I because our mornings are going to get a little better here
After we shift, it'll get light a little
for the
sooner.
early morning people.
Yeah, it's interesting. The history of it is it had to do allegedly with farmers needing to, have longer hours in their field. Like, here's a funny story about Russia. So Russia is gigantic. It now has 14 time zones in it. But there was a time when legally they were all on the same time zone. And so, like, did the farmers on the eastern part of Russia, did they care that it was,
noon,
11 p.m. when they had to get up and start working their fields? They did not care, right? They just rose with the sun and set with the sun. And we do have a couple of people who have texted in. One says, I don't care, just pick one and stick with it. Another one says, stay on standard time year-round, not daylight saving time. Another one says, studies prove standard time's the best and safest for us all. Another one says, keep daylight saving time the way it is. And another one says, standard time is better for school kids. So mix of opinion. And I think you can see just from our texters why this is such an issue. Right? It's just so political. So President Trump, he's like, in the spring earlier this year, of course, he likes to type in all caps, but he said the changing of the clocks, it's not every 6 months, by the way. It used to be pretty even, and now we spend more time on daylight saving time than we do on standard time. But he said changing the clocks is a big inconvenience and for our government, quote, a very costly event, all in caps, 3 exclamation marks.
Yeah, well, I do remember when they moved the change back, the one that we were about to have, until after Halloween.
Right.
That wasn't that long ago, and I think that was done because of Halloween.
Yeah,
And because
maybe,
we wanted to give the kids a little bit more daylight, I guess, before it got dark. Because starting Sunday, it's going to get darker a lot earlier, and trick or treaters, even at like 5:30 or 6 o'clock, would be in the dark.
Still pretty dark, yeah. So one of the other things that does happen, in fact, I remember when I was, I don't remember if I was actually a legislator or I was out, but I said I preferred to stay on daylight saving time. I got somebody who messaged me and said, so you like kids to die then? I'm like, no, of course I do not like kids to die. Like, what a weird comment is that? But their point was, as you shift that in the morning, like sometimes it can be harder to see kids, and we know that it's harder to see wildlife too. So the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources say that people are more likely to hit a deer around the time change in November. So that's this weekend.
Well, we need to get the deer on board with the time shift too.
Well,
Like they don't adapt as well as we do, or maybe they adapt better. Who knows?
I don't know. They say the time coincides with mating season and the annual migration of deer, so they just work by the sun, right? They don't know what time the clock says.
You know what surprises me? I deal with a lot of people, media and other attorneys who are in different parts of the country, and nobody can figure out mountain time.
I know.
I mean, they all know where you are on the East Coast. They all know where you are on the West Coast, and even the Midland, but
Central time.
Yeah, Central time. That people just cannot. I mean, I just had a woman from San Francisco the other day. She called me and she goes, "Well, it's 10 o'clock here, so it's noon where you are." I'm like, "No, we're 1 hour ahead of you," and she could not get that out of her head. She kept saying, "You're 2 hours ahead."
So we have a couple more texters, and this one I've heard this before. Only a fool believes they can cut 1 inch off of one end of a blanket and add it to the other and create a longer blanket. Right? The number of hours doesn't change. Another one says, leave it on daylight savings time. It's lighter later. Another one says, I used to like the idea of switching to daylight saving time year round. But I've come to my senses and realized that what we currently do is the least worst situation. Another one says, let's compromise and move the whole country 30 minutes after standard time. So let's just shift the clock that way.
30 minutes, yeah. And
Well, there are some time zones that are like offset by like 30 minutes. It's weird. Another one says, literally move it a half an hour and stay there. And for the sake of golf, stay on daylight saving time. Although, don't they have lights? Keep things as they are. I can't imagine the sun coming up at 4 a.m. in the summer.
I don't know if golf courses have lights. I
I
never
don't
thought
know.
about that. Yeah.
Baseball does, though.
Well, I kind of like what we do now is the least worst alternative.
The least worst.
That was good. And I never thought about the 30-minute thing, but that makes some sense too, a compromise.
Like, I mean, it's to our texturer's point that said you can't just cut 1 inch off a blanket and put it on the other and say now you've created more time. No, we know that.
We get that.
We know that. It's just funny that
It's a
we
good
think,
analogy, though.
government is going to run our clocks. And you have to change some clocks. Like I still have to change my oven and my microwave, but all of my digital stuff, it changes automatically.
Changes by itself. There you go.
Yeah.